All right, Numbers 24, let's call this one Eyes Uncovered, going back to our tendency to try to pull these titles straight out of the chapters as much as possible. And that's going to describe the last two oracles that Balaam is given in this chapter. One, his third oracle, and then a bonus oracle we're going to see that are both really introduced in much the same way. See, after having been blinded to some of the things that were right before him, trying to go and essentially profit for gain as opposed to profit consistently with what God's will was, his donkey had its mouth open to help him see the angel of the Lord that was ready to stand in his way, and not just stand in his way, but to strike him down and kill him for persisting on a path that God was trying to get him to turn from. And so after having that intervention, for lack of a better term, now it seems that his final oracle is going to start with him lamenting, or not even really lamenting, really appreciating the fact that his eyes have now been opened and he is now prophesying with a new perspective. And that's what we're going to see in verse 3, where it's going to say, and he took up this discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down with his eyes uncovered. And it's going to read much the same way in his last oracle, beginning at Verse 15, it's going to say, and he took up this discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God and who knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down with his eyes uncovered, in great contrast to the time in which he was blinded to the fact that death was standing right before him. But understand, it doesn't end well for Balaam, and part of it has to do with this dilemma that we all are going to have to confront. See, when we respond well to an intervention, even though we're rarely going to be blessed with an intervention from God, sometimes it'll be from friends, sometimes it'll be from family members, sometimes it'll just be an epiphany, us waking up. The question then becomes, what are we going to do? See, because having our eyes open can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse. And what's happening here is something that I heard, and I have to give credit to first hearing from T.D. Jakes, who basically said, our character has to be able to carry us under the weight of the blessings that God has for us. And for Balaam, he is being blessed with an even more opened eye and sense of what God is going to show him. But it's not clear that his character can carry the weight of all the things that he is now going to see. Because later on in 31, he's going to die, and he's going to die with the enemies of God. And it's specifically going to say because he was able to counsel the enemies of God in the ways of making the people of Israel stumble. See, he couldn't curse them, but in the very next chapter, chapter 25, we're going to see them stumble. And 31 is going to clarify why. It's going to say that Balaam was the reason why. And so it doesn't specifically say, but I began to question if his eyes were open to the blessings of Israel, what else did he see? See, because by this time we've already seen they're an imperfect people. And if people look into our lives long enough, they're going to see flaws. But the question is, are we, when we have insight into the lives of other brothers and sisters, are we going to be people who possess the character to deal with the things we learn about people responsibly? Likewise, when people learn about our lives, are they trustworthy, whether they're brothers and sisters or not? Because, see, even the world understands the need to deal with information responsibly. We hear it in the surveillance state now. We've heard about the ways in which our government is able to collect great amounts of information. And at first blush, that can seem really frightening. But one of the downsides we've heard about that is it's one thing to be able to collect information. It's another thing to be able to use information effectively. And that is the dilemma that Balaam is given, and that's the dilemma that we have as well. See, because what it's going to say at the beginning of chapter 25 is while Israel lived in Shittim, it's not giving us an idea of how long they lived there. But I'm guessing during that time, Balaam had the opportunity to observe their strengths and their weaknesses. And while he could have probably been a great asset to Moses, it seems that he chose to give the information from what he saw and observed to the enemies of God, when he could have partnered up with the people of God. And that's the question that we have. If he gave us deeper insight, not only into the lives of the people of God, but into the mysteries of God, would we have the character to handle that information responsibly? See, because Balaam, lacking that character, not only did much damage to the people of Israel, he ultimately ended up self-destructing, which is why even though they can be hard to endure, there are times when God will restrain us to make sure we are both safe to ourselves and the people around us.